At the moment when they told me I was being fired, I went back to my office. I had my own little office at the time, got a box, and I started putting all my stuff in the car, telling a couple of people, bye, thank you, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until I got to my car that I broke down crying because I was so scared. Because for one, I only had one job, one income. So now I don't have any money coming in. I have a daughter. I was a single mom. So now I'm like, how am I going to support her?
It's time to start the show and educate the people. Oh, it's time to help you see just how you can be financially free with Cleo.
Welcome back to Financially Free with Cleo podcast. I am your host, Cleo Childress, and we are here for part 3 of our 5-part fear series, where I'm sharing some of my fears, where they come from, why do they exist, what I'm doing to work through those fears, and how you can do the same. All right, so part 3. Another one of my fears is fear of not being good enough professionally. And why does this exist? It stems from the experience I had when I was fired from my job back in 2010. So I had started off as an intern there. I was offered a full-time position after the internship, and I worked there for 4 years up until the day that I was fired. And that was the first time I had ever been fired from a job. So it kind of hit me real hard. At the moment when they told me I was being fired, I went back to my office. I had my own little office at the time, got a box, and I started putting all my stuff in the car, telling a couple of people, bye, thank you, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until I got to my car that I broke down crying because I was so scared. Because for one, I only had one job, one income. So now I don't have any money coming in. I have a daughter. I was a single mom. So now I'm like, how am I going to support her? I got my own place, but how am I going to be paying my rent and my bills now? Because now I don't have a job. The only thing in investment wise that I had was a 401k from that job. And it was not a lot in there. It was like $5,000. But back then, that $5,000 was helpful. I cashed it out. Wish I didn't cash out my 401k, but I did because I did not think that I could get another job quickly. So that messed with my self-esteem, my confidence at the time, professionally, because I said, how can I work at this job for 4 years and be fired? How did I let that happen? Cleo, what happened? How did you let that happen? So that's still a fear that I have now, a small one. But it's a fear of not being good enough professionally and not being able to keep a good job. And when I say good job, meaning a job that I'm being paid well, a job that I felt like I like the flexibility in the schedule, a good job meaning I actually enjoy doing the job. So I fear going back to 2010 when I was fired from the job. Sometimes I wonder, am I doing a good job? Am I good enough to keep this job, to elevate in this job? And on the entrepreneurship side, I do still wonder, I still have a part of me, I'm wondering, am I good enough to be great at what I'm doing as a financial educator, as a money yoga instructor, as a podcast host? Am I great as a speaker? Am I good enough professionally to continue to elevate in my own businesses? I didn't want to admit that I had this fear because I was sitting here thinking about all my fears, y'all. And I'm like, I actually do have a fear that I'm not good enough. For example, I was presented with an opportunity. This was back in 2020. I was contacted by Verizon Wireless, and they wanted me to do a money yoga class virtually for their employees. So of course, I'm a yoga instructor. I'm a money yoga instructor. I've taught these classes several times, right? But it's always been because I've hosted my own class and people sign up and pay to attend, or I had someone, an individual reach out and say, hey, I want you to do a class for a group of us. But I had never had a company reach out to me wanting me to do a money yoga class. So when I got that contact, I was excited. But at the same time, I doubted myself. I second guessed myself. I was wondering, like, yes, I got a contact from a large company to do what I do, right? But then I said, will I be good enough? Will it be a good review afterwards? Will the employees like it? Will they want me to come back? Will they enjoy the money yoga session? Am I a good enough yoga instructor? Am I a good enough financial educator to educate them, to train them, to challenge them in this class? And then I had to tell myself, Cleo, they reached out to you. They clearly see value, right? Or they wouldn't have reached out to talk about it, right? They wouldn't be asking, Cleo, what is your rate? What is your availability? If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're still struggling managing your money, you need to join me in the Daily Money Habits text community. Sometimes when we're trying to level up in our finances, we can get overwhelmed and not do anything at all. And then other times we start and we fall off track real quick. And I want to help you stay focused. So in the Daily Money Habits text community, you will get a text from me every single day with a financial affirmation to help empower you and help push you forward through this journey. And the second thing is an action step, me telling you exactly what you need to do every single day to reach those money goals. And you'll also get monthly financial workshops so you can continue on this education and helping you take action on all of this information that you are receiving. So text Money Habits, all caps, to 615-813-4827. It is a paid community. It's $37 a month. But hey, we got to invest in ourselves, right? If we want to see real results. So I will see you in the Daily Money Habits text community. So I had to tell myself that I am great. I am good. So that's something that I'm doing to work through those fears, is to acknowledge what I have done, the work that I'm doing on my podcast, the work that I'm doing with my financial education work, the work that I'm already doing with money yoga classes, acknowledging that I am already doing the work. I am already serving people. I am already making an impact in other people's lives, and I don't need to underestimate myself. That's something that I'm doing, is to work through those fears of not being good enough professionally, but also understanding that I won't get every opportunity that I want. And that's okay, Cleo. Every job I apply for, I'm not going to get. Do y'all know how many times I've applied for jobs, didn't even get a response? There's been times I've applied for jobs, did an interview, and got a no. There's been a lot of jobs that I started and then I got fired from, like the one that I told you about. I got fired 4 years later. There's been times where I've started jobs and I've decided myself, I'm like, you know what? I don't think this is a good fit for me to elevate the way I want to elevate. So the way I'm working through those fears of not being good enough professionally is to continue to do the work, continue to be consistent, because that's the only way to get stronger, get more educated, and to be great at your craft, is to actually keep doing the work. So I'm going to keep doing my podcast. I'm going to keep speaking. I'm going to keep doing my financial education work. I'm going to keep doing my money yoga classes because I enjoy it. I may get to a point where I may not want to do any of this anymore, but in this season of my life, this is what I enjoy. This is what I like. This is what I love. This is what I want to do. And I also still do my contract work with insurance companies. So I still do that as well. So I still enjoy that for the moment. So I just want to encourage you to think about, do you have any fears when it comes to business and professionalism? Do you have any fears about not being good enough professionally at your job or in your business? And if you do have any, what are you going to do to work through those fears? Do you need to start, not underestimating who you are and what you've already done and what you can bring to the table? Sometimes we have so many skills and so much experience, personality, creativity, and we underestimate it. And I want you to stop. I'm going to stop doing that. And I'm going to start taking more risk. I take risks because I have a quote that I love That's my own quote. It's don't wonder what if, take a risk. Just do it. Because I'll just do a whole bunch of stuff. And if it works out, cool. And if it doesn't, that's cool too, because I still learn something from it. So me just reminding myself that I just need to continue to do the work in my business, at jobs that I work, but this also know that I'll get some yeses and I'll get some no's. But if I get no's, it doesn't mean that I'm not worthy. It doesn't mean that I'm not valuable. It doesn't mean that I don't have a lot of great things to bring to the table. It just means that that particular opportunity was not meant for me. I wasn't meant for them. It wasn't meant to be, and that's okay, because that means that since I didn't get that, the one that's meant for me is coming. What is meant for me is coming. So when y'all get those no's, I treat no's differently now. When I get no's, like back in the day, I used to take those no's hard. Even today, which is why it's still a fear, I still have my moments. Sometimes I'll get a no and I'm like, okay, cool. But then sometimes I'll get a no and I'm like, should I do something else? Should I still be doing what I'm doing? Is this a sign that I should go in a different direction, a different industry, a different path? But then I have to tell myself, it's okay if you get a no. And it's okay if you pivot and want to do something else, just as long as you are doing what you feel is best for you at that time. So acknowledge your thoughts and your feelings around your professional life, whether you are working for a company or working for yourself. What are your fears around that? And what are you going to do to push through those fears? So I hope you tune into next week, which is part 4 of our 5-part series, 5-part fear series. And I will see you next week.
You can be financially free with Cleo.